On August 1st of 1942, the AFM went on strike against major recording companies due to disagreements on royalties. The strike had unintentional and intentional effects. One of the unintentional effects was the rise in popularity of vocalists. Another was the rise of R&B, boogie woogie, and what we call bebop. Tonight, we're talking about one of the greatest female vocalists of all times, Billie Holiday. Cue the music. I was excited about this because of the timing that this album is. We're looking at Billie Holiday. This is number 37 in our countdown to number 1, by the way.
Yeah.
We are just about 3/4 of the way through. Billie Holiday, the complete original American Decca recordings. This was on GRP on CD, and these songs were recorded between 1944 and March of 1950. When I think about that time frame of 44, this was just about the end of the recording strike. One of the few things that happened is vocalists were not part of the music union. So you could record vocal jazz between the 42 and 44. I believe that was August of 42 through October of 1944. They never anticipated it going this long, but it did. And so the rise of the great vocalists were among us.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you're mentioning great vocalists, and let's talk about Frank Sinatra. Let's talk about Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes.
You know, putting out music at that same time, coming up only, well, I don't want to say only because of the music strike, but
no,
you know, kind of launching their career with the strike. So without the strike, we may not have ever heard Frank Sinatra.
There were some great vocalists, because of that.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
I'm holding back because Frank Sinatra was not my favorite. He's good.
No.
See, just not one of my favorites. So,
and I'll agree with you all day long.
Yeah.
But without the strike, he might not have ever made it large or made it big.
Yeah.
The way in which they worded that in a article that I read is that the big bands were conquering, and you might have a guest vocalist, but the roles reversed, and now it was the star was the singer, and you had a band to back them, and that was perfect in my mind when I think about this CD, this set of recordings with the bands that she had backing her while she sang.
I think also I read where Billie was a big supporter and influential to get Frankie, she called him Frankie, into the scene. So that's a pretty big deal, actually. He attributes his success to her.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Okay, well, hey, let's start off with our weekend music. Drew, why don't you go first this week? Tell me what your weekend music was like.
You know, it's been a wild week. We finished up the Monks gig and got the pictures done for the young man. Started to work through all of that just in general. Had a weekend that began on Friday night as me and many leaders for the church's middle school group left for a weekend retreat. 24 students. I had 4 boys in that group, so I spent the weekend out at Camp Buckner, just outside of town here. And I never anticipated, I don't think anybody ever did, we saw 35-mile-an-hour winds and a high on Saturday of 55.
Ooh.
So it was freeze your knees cold out in the middle of the hill country. It was a great weekend, though. We had all kinds of fun. Lights out at midnight, and most of the games didn't end until 11, and most of that was sugar rush induced. So late nights, early mornings, a lot of great food from, you just walk in, they put it on your tray and you eat. So 3 squares a day and early mornings, late nights. So I was definitely ready to come home Sunday afternoon for a hot shower and a nap.
Yeah.
Which means I didn't get a lot of music in my ears. This Saturday, the New School of Jazz Ensemble will be performing at the baseball field it's called Long Time. They have 2 games going on, and we're playing in between the 2 games. So we've got another gig this weekend.
Oh man, that's awesome. Do you get free tickets to get into the game?
We do.
Oh, nice.
We do. We'll be busy through the morning, but then we'll stay for that game that afternoon after our gig is up.
Yeah.
Our gig is up.
The Tin Caps had their home opener this weekend as well, and it was very, very cold.
I bet it was. What about y'all's week?
Did I mention last week about the group, the second chapter of Acts? Did I mention that group last week?
I thought you did.
Okay, maybe you did.
I won't go into that, but I did listen to that album a couple times, that track anyway. I also listened to Ahmad Jamal. I listened to, but not for me, probably 2 or 3 times anyway. It's so smooth.
Uh-huh.
And then I found Matthew Whitaker.
Okay.
He has one called Now Hear This album. And
What instrument does Matt play?
he's a piano organ player.
Okay.
Yeah. And that album is so cool. And in that album, there's some really rockin' cool and mostly charged drum beats. Of course, I'm kind of into drum beats. And then I also listened to a couple of Billie Holiday's other songs, including God Bless the Child.
Mm-hmm.
I read the lyrics for that. I listened to Summertime, the Gershwin version.
Yep.
And then I probably listened to Spoiled Fruit 2 or 3, maybe 4 times.
Strange fruit.
Strange fruit. So that's pretty much my week in music. I was otherwise pretty occupied, so I didn't get a chance to broaden my scope, and I didn't go to any clubs or anything.
So what led you to listen to Ahmad Jamal this week? Is there anything particular? Did you?
Well, I've heard his name. You guys have talked about it before. You told me how good it was, how much you appreciated and enjoyed it. And it came up on my list, and I clicked on it and clicked on it and clicked on it a couple times. So yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's awesome.
It wasn't hard to listen to.
No, I don't want to give anything away, but it may be coming up in the
May
future.
be.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. I haven't looked forward in the book to know what's coming up.
No,
that's all right. That's okay. It's okay because by the time we get there, it's still
clap. It's still some time away. But Ahmad Jamal, maybe somebody worth listening to. And I promise you, as we continue on the top 100, there are going to be some great names that we're going to find. And there'll be some great names that as you search and rabbit hole that aren't on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't hurt to listen to anybody at any given time.
So my week, it was kind of like the Wild West around here. I had a hard time. Billy, I had Billy in my ear a lot this week. But then as far as that goes, it was just a plethora of different. I did some more big band stuff. I did some jazz orchestra stuff. I'm looking forward to day after tomorrow, the Three Rivers Big Band at the club room. So we get to go hear the Three Rivers Big Band on Wednesday. So I just, again, the Wild West being, I barely make it out of the B's on my phone list before I pick something to listen to. So, but yeah, I ran into a couple of new artists this week. Well, of course, we're going to talk and feature one of those new artists on our slideshow here coming up in a little bit. But yeah, it was a great week in music for me. It really was. And especially, you know what, here's the thing I really appreciate is, the patio pour is done and we're super happy with it. We were out there on Saturday cleaning the table and getting everything ready to put on the new patio. And Kendra says, "Hey, whatever you do, you got to do it to jazz. So go get your phone and turn on some music." And so, okay, no problem. So yeah, we had jazz on Saturday for sure together. So love that.
Good.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah.
So let's say we get started with some audio clips so that we can hear a little bit about Billie Holiday, and then we can get into a slideshow and then into our discussion about where we rated the album and our thoughts.
Perfect.
So, Matt, do you want to start with your clip?
I do. This is a compilation album, and so the thing that I find interesting is that you'll have a track, and then they'll put the same track on there as the single version. They'll put the same track on there as take one. But for me, the one I want to hear is "You Can't Lose a Broken Heart," and the reason I like it, the reason it sticks out to me, there's others that stick out that I do want to talk about, but the reason this one sticks out is because you get to hear Pops, and they're doing a duet together with Billie and Pops. So you could pretty much start this wherever you want to. I really don't care. This song it touched me this week more than anything. Just hearing Pops again.
This is going to be the single version featuring the Cy Oliver and his orchestra. So without anything,
without further ado,
often spoken will upset your apple cart. So don't lose your head, then lose your guy.
You want me to?
No, nope. It's okay.
Look out, don't lose your head, then lose your gal. You can't lose a broken heart, babe. If you ever break up, then try to make up. It's tough to make a brand new start. Take a while and think it over while strolling beneath the moon.
You can play the whole thing, but
December, baby, you'll regret too soon.
Because that is so cool.
Isn't it cool? It really is. I mean, and even listening to it over the internet, like right now, the sound is really kind of crystal clear. You can hear everything. It's relevant, and again, it's a recording from the late 40s.
Yeah,
late 40s. So, but I just like the way that it was recorded. I like hearing Pops sing with Billie, and yeah, she sounded great in that song to me.
It really is amazing to hear the arrangement behind it for the band.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very minimal, very quiet for the most part, just letting the vocalists do their thing, and then an occasional pop from the horn section. And those riffs are just priceless.
When that big band pops, you hear it. So
it pops.
It pops. Dad, what'd you think? What'd you think of that clip?
I liked it. But that was not on the list that I had for whatever reason. So that's the first time I heard it. And it's very cool. The rhythm, the style, it was right on. Yeah, I liked it. If I were to rate the album just based on this, I would have to change my rating.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
it was really, really good.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's a good clip.
Yeah.
And again, the song just hit me all week. I just thought about her and Pops, singing together. So,
of course, now that you had 2 or 3 or 4 minutes of your song,
Don't forget, I'm the editor.
That's right.
I could play the song for 5 minutes for you, but this is the night of the final.
It was worth listening to. It really was.
Yeah.
One day I will correct your listings as I fix them on this end, and then you can gorge all the music you want.
Okay.
So, what song did you want to hear?
I wanted to hear girls take care of their men or their boys.
This had featuring the Stardusters. This was one of the singles that was out there.
Girls were made to take care of boys, to be kind and beautiful.
Girls were made to take care of boys made to share their sorrows, made to share their joys, made to help and guide them with ever a patient hand, made to give affection in the right direction.
Always understand.
Now boys make things, they take care of girls just because they pass on their fashions and their curves. But I've always found it's just the other way around.
Just the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh, that is an awesome clip.
Yeah.
I chose that because it sounds, it's as much the cabaret style as any of the other tracks that I've listened to on this album. And I think it brings that definitive tone out in the way she sang the lyrics. And I pictured being in a small auditorium with the background, a small group, and then the cabaret singer, the soloist, bringing out the message. And so I'm hearing the message. Now, some might think I chose it because I'm a little chauvinistic, but that's not exactly why I chose it.
No. It was a different time back then. She could sing about that. You would not hear that on the radio today.
No.
No, you would not.
You wouldn't hear lyrics anything like that on the radio today.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that, and I did not pay enough attention last week when I had Billy in my ear for that particular song. But this clip, while you listen to it sitting here, I find it interesting her control. She can sing the straight notes, but then when she holds a note for a few seconds, she's got that beautiful vibrato in her voice.
Yep.
You know, some singers overuse vibrato and try and do it on every note, but she hits the notes that she needs to, and then she lets go and releases the vibrato on the notes that she can. So that's a great clip.
She used her voice as the main instrument that it was there for. So
okay, let me ask you a question, because that brings up a great point. And I know that we always say that we're not vocal jazz fans and that we're very particular about our vocal jazz. When you listen to a vocal jazz artist, do you picture, besides their voice being an instrument, do you picture what instrument? I do. I picture what instrument they would be or how they would play that on a particular instrument, their voice. So Billy, for me, she would be a tenor saxophone, you know.
It's interesting, being that I think you're about to talk about some of her inspiration and her best friend, Lester Young.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about that tenor sax, if they ran together, maybe she is a tenor sax and she's got that tone. And if it is, it's the Lester Young.
Yeah.
It's not a Coltrane.
No.
It is definitely a Lester Young. So.
Okay. Do you do that though? Do you picture the instrument like that they would be if they were playing an instrument? Because we always say that their voice is their instrument, but for me, when I'm listening to jazz, vocal jazz, because it's not my favorite style. I try and make it my own by saying, right, what instrument can I see here playing?
Dad,
that's a really good point. I like that. I'll try to remember that when and if we listen or hear another vocalist. That makes a lot of sense. It does.
Dad, I want to ask you this. If you think about vocalists, I'm going to ask you this. What instrument is he? What instrument is Gregory Porter, if you had to think of him as an instrument?
Yeah. Besides a flugelhorn,
Well,
yeah, I would say that's one.
Yeah, or a
Matt,
trombone maybe. His
Trombone?
voice is
Yeah.
butter.
That's why you ask. You wanted me to say trombone.
I wanted to know what you thought. You know Gregory Porter's albums better
Yeah.
than most of us.
Yeah.
So I figured you might. And Matt, I love that. I really do love that question. Like a couple of weeks ago, you wanted to see how many times you could mention Marie Schneider. I'm going to talk about Texas Jazz and Blues Camp coming up June 15th through the 20th. At Texas Jazz and Blues Camp, they'll tell you that your voice is your first instrument.
Yeah.
And so singing is part of that. If it's your first instrument, most people then pick up another instrument that's outside of their body and they begin to play. What would that instrument be for those vocalists? So I love that question.
Is it too early for a quote?
Break it out.
It's never too early for a quote.
When Billy was asked to explain her style of singing, she said, "I don't think I'm singing. I feel like I'm playing a horn. I try to improvise like Les Young, like Louis Armstrong, or someone else I admire. What comes out is what I feel. I hate straight singing. I have to change a tune to my own way of doing it. That's all I know." Is that cool?
And it's so relevant to our conversation right
Yeah.
now.
Very
Yeah.
relevant.
So relevant. It's
Cool.
almost like you planned that. Did you plan that?
Yes, I did all along.
Uh,
Yeah. I knew what
Genius.
you were going to say ahead of time.
the Jedi mind trick to get us into that conversation so he could get that quote in when he wanted to.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
These are the droids you're looking for.
Brilliant. All right, Drew,
Oh, man.
let's talk about your clip.
I wanted to hear Lover Man. This is, I don't know if it was actually the first track on all of this, but to me, her voice, the band, the music, just phenomenal. So I'll start at the beginning.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I'm feeling so sad. I long to try something I've never had. Never had no kissing. Oh, what I've been missing. Lover man, oh, where can you be? The night is cold and I'm so all alone. I'd give my soul just to call you my own.
I have to say, it is like Lester Young. When you think about that, if it's a tenor sax, it starts out just gorgeous and beautiful. I'm cutting mine short so we can get into the slideshow because there's so much great facts coming out. But to me, her voice control has what this collection of songs has really been about. There's so much fun stuff in the album to listen to, period.
Well, here's the next thing, and I'm not going to ask you to play the clip because we only get one clip each, but Don't Explain. The song Don't Explain. She wrote that song, right?
Yes.
But this is not the first time on our journey that we've heard this song. And so last year when we did this,
Yeah.
Hush now, don't explain.
You know who it is.
I know you raised
I know, but this is not the first time we've heard this song.
I'm glad
No, it's not.
you're back. Don't explain.
Courtney Pine, episode number 79. They did a version of Don't Explain. And so when this song came on last year, when we did this album, when this song came on, I was racking my brain. I know I've heard the song. Someone did it. Someone redid it. Courtney Pine on Modern Day Jazz
Yep.
did Don't Explain. Oh, such. Hang on. love it.
Yes.
I love it when the songs are recognizable to me. And of course, because it was Courtney Pine is the first time I heard the song. When it got to the original of Billy, I knew the song, so I was super excited about that. Dad, you didn't get a chance to be with us on the Courtney Pine episode, but if you get a chance to listen to the Courtney Pine album, man, put that on for sure, because
that episode was Courtney Pine's Journey to the Urge Within. This is modern day jazz. And what I recognized in that song was from Courtney Pine was the female vocalist that we covered at the beginning of all of the show, Cassandra Wilson. Like Dawn. And so to have, this is that thing about this journey, is that everything comes crashing down. And you go, okay, wait a minute. Cassandra's doing this with Courtney Pine, and those are the first two on our lists in the top 20, and 100 to 80. And now we're going backwards to Billie Holiday's song. So this history is now modern day jazz that we have a great reference from. That's the journey to me. That's where skipping to number one and just going, okay, so that's a great album. But the exploration. The
foundation. Yes. The foundation for us is the important key. And we've still got 36 weeks to go before our foundation is even complete, before we can start building on our foundation. And we rabbit hole all the time. We talk about it all the time, who we listen to. And
even then, that's just the base.
We haven't even
put boards up for a real foundation yet.
No.
That's what impresses me about you guys, because you're able to put it together and relate to the historicity of all this music and all these artists. And that's so cool.
Well, let's break out with some slideshow information.
Let's do the slideshow.
Talking about history, let's get into some timelines and some quotes and some other stuff.
All right. Well, that first slide, I say it every week. Whatever you do, do it to jazz. You can hear by our discussion that we pretty much have jazz in our ears all week long. And of course, this week was no different. Billie Holiday, the complete Decca Recordings, is the album we're going to talk about on the slideshow this week. Let's move on to the cover art. For me, the cover art is just kind of plain. It's not even really a GRP label cover art. The GRP label, to me, you can tell if it's a Blue Note. You can tell if it's a Columbia label. You can tell the artwork from ECM. You can tell who it is. But if I just saw this picture, I could not. GRP would not be the first jazz label that came to my mind. So,
in the terms of the kids that I spent the weekend with, the album cover's just mid.
It's mid, yeah, pretty much, just mid. Okay, let's move on to the picture slide. It's so cool because looking her up, obviously there's not very many color pictures, so I just stuck with all the black and white stuff. But that top picture of her singing on the stage, Dad, your clip, that's kind of where I could see your clip coming from, is a setting just like that, a small stage with a curtain behind her, the singers in the background, and they just capture her in her element right there. The black and white picture on the right hand side, she's dressed a little more elegant. Thank you. I was going to say professional. Yeah, elegant's the proper word. Very elegant dress. Her smile. She's, it's just a beautiful picture of her. Just capture her so well. And then the stamp, which I found that this week that they put her on a stamp, and never even occurred to me. So I did a pretty deep dive on who the other female jazz singers were that were on a stamp. And you got Ella Fitzgerald, of course, on a stamp. So it's just a little bit of history that I didn't know that I knew or needed to remember, but I'm going to remember it now. She's on a stamp.
I probably had a whole page of these stamps at one time.
You probably did. And I still have all my stamps, and I probably should open up my books and see if I have any jazz singers or players in my stamp collection.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah. Yeah, because that would have come from the original year. So if the stamp came out in 1971, I'd have that 71 original year. Anyways, let's move on to jazz lingo for the day. The term that I picked this week is making paper. Slang for making a lot of money. And you know, Billie Holiday is no slouch. She made a lot of money in her career. They talk about not her extravagant lifestyle, but the amount of money that she made in her career. So she made a lot of paper, for sure.
Making paper.
Yep, for sure. All right, move on to the where you can get it. This week's album can be found on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, LP, and CD. And yes, I went on to Discogs this week just to make sure that it was available for purchase on LP and CD, and it actually is still available. Quote on the bottom of that slide for me: sometimes it's worse to win a fight than to lose. That's a quote from Billie Holiday. It's worse to win a fight. Honey, do these jeans make me look big? Which one is better, to win that fight or to lose that fight?
Win it. I double dog dare you.
No, thanks.
That quote just hits so hard when you really think about it. Sometimes it's better just to walk away and lose, because the long term, you never know what the ramifications will be.
Well, and
that's one of her favorite or most notable quotes too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Johnny Law had it out for her. I mean, she had a lot of problems with heroin. I'm not siding with her, but Johnny Law had it out for her from the beginning anyways. And, you know, Dad, did you get a chance to watch the movie Billie Holiday versus
No.
United States?
No, I did see a couple other short 3 to 5 minute videos about Billie, but
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Okay. Yeah. I like the quote. That's why I put it in there. Sometimes it's worse to win a fight than to lose. She was never going to win that fight against Johnny Law, but anyways, all right, let's move on to the next slide. This new timeline slide. Billie was born in 1915. She was born Eleanor Fagan. So Billie Holiday was a name that she conjected from her father and from one of her favorite artists. In 1937, and around that time, she worked with Count Basie and Artie Shaw. And then between 40 and 47 was most of her commercial success, where she really started to shine, come into her own, and just have the success of a singer. And again, because of the 42 to 44 music band, it just kind of excelled her career anyways. 1959, she passes away. That's the same year Kind of Blue came out. So, and her and Miles were friendly to each other. And we'll get to that here in just a second on the 6 Degrees. But in 1992 is when this album was released. Now, this is a GRP collection, the complete deck of records. So it came out posthumously.
Yeah. And it's so, I appreciate this timeline because you do see the years active in the middle of that. When was the first album? When we're talking about 44 to 50 of this collection, when did she pass away? The posthumously is always an exciting thing to see because they will be taking the greatest of. Mm-hmm. Here was that collection of songs, and to have it on Decca from that time period was really great.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on to the information slide. We'll get through this quick and make our way to the discussion. So the influences that I found, of course, Louis Armstrong was an influence to her. Bessie Smith, who was also a jazz singer in the 30s. But then it mentioned that the West End blues were some of her foundation, where she started to really hear and understand that she could do this. And the West End blues kind of, yeah, it was just a major influence for Billie, is what I read. Did you have any other influences or find any other? Lester Young.
Lester Young, but she got her name Lady Day from her friend Lester Young. Yeah. And it showed her best friend and music partner. And so I know that I had read on one of the searches that I was into for all of this, that there was a lot of influences back and forth because of that.
Cool.
So, Lady Day.
Lady Day, not Lady D.
Not Lady Day. not Lady D. Lady Day.
She's got 12 studio CDs, 3 live albums, CDs. I say CDs. 24 compilations together, and then 38 singles. And so that's a fairly large collection to kind of get through. Anyways, I didn't make many notes of what else I had listened to by Billy this week. Because the album that we're covering, the compilation, is just so long and vast that you didn't really have to put much in. The genre that I got listed is jazz, swing, and then the blues genre for her. Anything else that you'd put in there?
Nope.
Okay. Few facts. She was born Eleonora Fagan was her actual birth name, and her friend Lester gave her the nickname Lady Day. She started singing in the nightclubs in Harlem when she was young. I mean, 13, 14, and 15, she started out singing in the nightclubs in Harlem. So her voice probably hadn't even, fully developed yet while she was singing in these nightclubs. And then that just led her on to basic stardom, after her voice developed.
What I understand is that she went to one of those nightclubs to try out for dancing. She wanted to be a dancer, and they said, "No, you ain't got it." She said, "So how about if I try singing?" At 15, and she started singing, and the history was made right there.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want you as no dancer. You can't dance because you ain't pretty enough. But let's try singing.
Boom. Nugget right there. He comes up with that brilliant nugget. They did make a documentary movie. That's not a documentary. This is just a plain movie, the U.S. Versus Billie Holiday. And Drew, you and I did watch this, but it was 3 months later when we watched the movie from when we listened to the album.
Yep.
So she does have 4 Grammy wins, and she is a Grammy Hall of Fame winner. So all of her Grammy wins were posthumously. The Grammy Hall of Fame, the Downbeat Hall of Fame jazz singer, and she is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So all of those, of course, were posthumous. Excuse me. Now let's just talk about the complete Decca records. She wrote "Don't Explain" after catching her husband with lipstick on his collar. And when I read that fact, it changes the whole song for me. You get it. You get what she's saying. Hush now. You don't need to explain. I know what's going on. So, yeah. Interesting. There's 2 songs on this album, duets with Pops. Again, we've talked about that, but I love the duets so much. I kind of get stuck on those. Her vocals were at her peak. This for these recordings is what I found out. The reading that I was doing, I read a lot of message boards and a lot of reviews from normal average people about this particular collection. Some of them didn't like that it had big band on it. Some of them didn't like that it was small combo. Some of them didn't like that it was early 40s recording, and then there was late 40s recording on there. So kind of middle of the road for the average jazz listener was what I took from that. But I thought her vocals were pretty spot on.
As true unconnoisseurs, though, I have to say, without that collection, that body of work, if all we heard was an album with 5 or 6 of the tracks, first of all, they're only 3 minutes long, but it would have been a short album, and you wouldn't get that decade of change. You wouldn't have what you have. And of course,
Right.
at 44 to 50, everything was shifting from the big band into the bebop era. It was coming into the vocalist jazz. So I think it was, from my standpoint, boo hiss. We had to have a collection like that to get an understanding of who Billie Holiday really is.
Right. And if you go to the unconnoisseur.com website, you can find our jazz genre list for the years too. And I was going to mention that anyways, but yeah, 45 to 50 is when the small ensembles really started to take on. But it's interesting that there's big band behind Billie Holiday on this album.
Yeah.
So
and orchestra.
and orchestra. Yes, for sure.
like maybe the Count Basie Orchestra, huh?
I'm gonna grab my trumpet and play it for you, Dad.
Just saying. Just saying.
I love you too.
All right, the 6 degrees that I found, and I was researching a little bit more, and I do this, I try to finish my slideshow on Saturday night, Sunday, but then I start questioning myself, did I finish it? Are my facts correct? So what I found was Billie Holiday did an album, it's not an album, it's a single actually, with Jerry Mulligan. The name of the song is Fine and Mellow. But if you look that up on YouTube, they spell Jerry's name with a J. It's definitely Jerry.
Yeah.
He's in the video. I've seen it, but it made me question this afternoon at 5:00 when I jumped on that video just to make sure. And I'm like, I better make sure that it's Jerry Mulligan. But it is.
It is.
Jerry Mulligan, of course, played a lot with Miles Davis. So she had 1 degree. Now, there's also a really nice, a very cool picture of her and Miles sitting at a banquet together. It was a music banquet, and they were sitting with I can't remember right off the top of my head. I'd have to pull it up and look at it again.
I'll find that picture and I'll put it up right now.
From 1958. It's a picture of her and Miles sitting together at a table, and there's a short little story that they were listening to some other artist tell jokes or something. And so I just found that interesting, that even though they didn't work together, they were able to hang out and be friendly with each other.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next slide. Today in jazz history. Today the video comes out on April the 16th. On this day in history, pianist Earl Hines records solo piano, and the name of the album is called Plays Cole Porter. And he released that in 1974, which if we remember Earl Hines, he's father. He started at the beginning. So his piece came out in 1974. Pianist Alice Coltrane records Transfiguration in 1978. Now, Alice is
Daughter of,
wife of
Mr. John Coltrane. So,
yes.
her album Transfiguration dropped on 1978. One final quote by Billie Holiday: "If I'm going to sing like someone else, then I don't need to sing at all." And it kind of goes along with your quote too, Dad, the one that you had earlier in the episode, where she doesn't sing the same song twice, even though it's the same song. She doesn't sing it the same way. So I really respect that about Billie Holiday, that she was, able to change it how she wanted to and didn't really care about what everyone said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to the What's New slide. I had fun researching this one this week. John Lake, he's a trumpet player, and his album Core was released in January of 2025. You can find him at johnlakejazz.com. He does have 5 studio releases out. He's a sideman on so many that I didn't want to sit and count that. I mean, it's a list as long as my left arm as a sideman. But his 5 solo studio albums, Core was pretty amazing in my ear this week. And Core is the Colorado, the CO, and the RE stands for reunion. So he plays with a lot of Colorado musicians, and of course this is them coming back together for a kind of reunion album called Core. But it's a great album. I had it in my ear. I really, really enjoyed it. And of course, because we are building our foundation, we haven't started building upwards yet, but I think it's interesting to talk about the new artists a little bit.
I do too.
That's the slideshow. Thanks for letting me do it.
Cool.
Thank you.
I've really appreciated the new artist stuff. I've had a chance to go back when finishing up the episode to listen to that. So I'll put that in my ear as I wrap up.
For sure.
The last bit of this. So thoughts.
Oh, and for our listeners, if you've got a new artist that you would like for us to highlight, please leave it in the comments. Let us know. I would definitely love input on who to highlight every week. I tend to go for trumpet players. But I got a lot of great ideas all week, and then I end up on trumpet players or piano players because that's what I'm interested in.
Organs consume my week this week. The organ, Hammond B3 especially.
Yeah.
So, thoughts on the album?
Well, because I was really new to this and to her style and to her voice, it took me 3 or 4 or 5 times going through the tracks to learn to appreciate it. When I first listened to it, I thought, I am not going to be able to get through this. I'm not going to be able to listen to all this. It was not pleasant to my ears. And so I really struggled with it. Then I think, Drew, you and I, or maybe Matt, you and I had a discussion about the history of it. And then I began to think, we got some real history going on here. So, yeah, after talking through that and listening to it, I grew to appreciate it a lot more. That's not an album that I'll go back to.
Well, and don't feel bad, because I made those same notes in my notes a year ago when we did this. And Drew, just so you know, you were at Jazz Camp the week that we listened to this.
I know.
So your score is going to probably reflect not having it in your ears as much because you were focused on Jazz Camp and this, that, and the other. But I made that same note in my note, Dad. I'm only 3 songs in and I'm ready to turn it off. I hope that this one grows on me. Don't feel bad, because I felt the same way.
So in a nutshell, it's tough to listen to because it's not this modern recording system, first of all. You've got to deal with the fact that a lot of it is recorded down on vinyl or tape right after World War II, but it was tough to record. It's vocal and it's 2 hours long. And not to mention a lot of double and triple songs. One of the takes is a minute long, and in the middle of it, she just says, I think I started a little slow. Well, the next take is exactly the same speed, but she brings it up a little bit. So they should play it in a different key. So there is a lot of repetitiveness from the single or from a 78 that would have been released. So it could have been tough for some listeners. To me, historically, it's like a Bix Beiderbecke. Things that we didn't understand at the time, we began to understand. And this year, I might have changed my score based on that. But you don't know what you don't know. And you can't expect to appreciate it up front.
Well, and again, 10 weeks after we did the album, it was when we watched the movie. And I said it changed my perception a little.
Yep.
Of her. A little, but not much.
Yeah, as I considered the album and the history of it all and her history, I grew to appreciate all that she suffered, all that she went through in that time of the American history in the South. And I definitely appreciate that part of it and appreciate what she had to experience as a young girl, as a young adult, and as a middle adult. And she never faced beyond 44 years. And it's so sad, because you said earlier, Matt, about Johnny Law, and how she was treated, mistreated, abused, taken advantage of. And I wanted to try to keep that out of my rating, but it's hard to not rate it without considering some of those things.
Well, and again, the deeper that you dive in, you read more, you learn more about her, you watch the movie or documentaries about her, and then it all shapes your perception of her and her music. And again, that's what I failed to do a year ago when we actually did this on our journey on our own.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little regret in my score.
The other thing that I struggled with, I'm not really into cabaret singers. Okay, they have it seems like they have one tone or one message. It's almost too mellow and not a lot of intonation and inflection. It's just like it's not like with Billy, you're not going to go to sleep on it because one track ends so quickly. But I struggle with the cabaret style.
And it's interesting because I talk about this a lot in photography as well. Do you shoot for the client or do you shoot for your own personal creativity? Which one makes you money? And your own personal creativity is not going to make that money. So you have to deliver what the clients want. And if you're playing in the cabaret, if you're playing in the small clubs, then play what the people want because you're going to get paid. She's making money, making paper. And if she's making paper, she's playing what the audience wants, what the record companies want. She's playing what is going to make her that money. And you go back to the history of her to begin with, being evicted out of mom and dad's house at an early age, coming up in the juvie center, finding a way to make it work for her. She's thinking about paying the bills, not being truly creative on her own. And in the process, the timing of things, with the vocalists coming to the forefront from the big band era, this really helps that. And it perpetuates her notoriety. And so I think it just helps her make money, making paper.
Making paper.
And so I think that's some of what I hear you saying in that, is that maybe it wasn't as exciting as Cassandra Wilson might have been. Maybe it wasn't as straightforward and in your face as Nina Simone was, but it was Billie Holiday. And so I think about that the history does make up a lot of what we're engaging in.
So I was reading again earlier this afternoon that even her managers were mistreating her because they basically, at the end of her life, stole all of her money, and that she had 70 cents left in her bank account when she passed away, not enough to pay for a funeral. She just got mistreated pretty much her whole life.
Yeah.
70 cents would equal $7.10 in today's money. Very, very,
Wow.
Very frustrating. Very frustrating. I'm ready to rate. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll kick this off because I usually wait to hear what everybody else says. When we first went through it, and it was Texas Jazz and Blues Camp going down, so it was a busy one, and I gave this a 7. I rated Billie Holiday's Decca Originals as a 7.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go next. Again, based on my notes, like you, Dad, it was rough at the beginning. The more I listened to it, the more it kind of grew on me. But last year when we rated it, 6.5 is what I rated it as. Again, foundationally, it's got to be there. We have to hear it to build the foundation of jazz, even though we don't like it, even though it's not one of our favorites. I hate to say we don't like it. It's not one of our favorites. It has to be there for us to have a foundation in jazz. So I would change my score. I'd go 7 or 7.5 for foundational issues, but we didn't know that last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gave it an 8. Surprising. I gave it an 8 because the more I listened to it, the more I got, and the lyrics, though some of them are lyrics of the time that I struggle with, I had difficulty with, but because of the times, because when it was done historically, I thought this is good stuff. The style, though, again, it's not my favorite. But otherwise, I gave it an 8. I thought that's pretty decent.
You're a stinker. Based on our conversation Friday, I thought you'd go 3 or 4. I'm glad you're at an 8 because, like I said, I would be up there with you, if I could. But last year when we rated it, it was different. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're at an 8. It's a good score.
You ask often, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean,
it did not cause a lot of tremors, but it did in my mind think this is good stuff based on the history, based on the music style, based on the quality of the musicians. So it didn't make me feel all elevated and exuberant, but So
It's interesting because we've had somebody like Cassandra. We've also had Betty Carter already. We've had a lot of great music already through our female vocal jazz through our ears.
even Nina Simone.
Even Nina Simone.
Simone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of that in our ears, and so this album, I can understand that.
It meets the criteria, the
It
craftsmanship. But Billy's got a great voice. Her craft and her craftsmanship is amazing. The awareness of her and the musicians, or her and the cabaret style, is definitely there for me. The creativity. I mean, she wrote "Don't Explain," so that's creative enough for me. Anyways, the spirit of the '40s is definitely there for me.
Mhm.
It's the emotion that just didn't hit the mark for me for Billy this time around. It did shake me though. 2 hours and 20 minutes of Billie Holiday is a lot
Mhm.
to kind of get through in your ear, and I like to do the whole thing. I when we're working on a 42-minute album, it's easy just to listen to that album. Boom, 42 minutes and you're done.
Yep.
Until you listen to it again right after that, and then right after that again. Especially the artist that's coming up next week.
Why don't you go ahead and just tell us who it is? Oh,
Before we do, you asked the question last week. What was her dog's name? Did you find
what
that?
was her dog's name? Yeah,
It's right here in the magazine.
Her dog's name was Mr. She called him Mr.
that's it, Mister.
And if Billy was alive today, I'd take my magazine and have her sign it.
Right?
She also had 2 chihuahuas that she took with her quite often, Chiquita and Peppy. Imagine, Chihuahua.
So this album did not make either of the previous Jazzwise lists. And of course, for our new listeners, we are using the Jazzwise magazine, the top 100 albums that shook the world. The list is from 2022 Jazzwise magazine. So that's why, and we're counting down. There you go. This album did not make either of the other lists. There was a list in 1999, and she was number 11 on that list with the Legacy album. And the Legacy album was 33 to 58. So our Decca recordings, of course, is 40 to 50, or 45 to 50. So this Legacy album spans even a longer journey with Billy. So it's interesting. I may put that in my ear next week. And then in the 06 list, she was number 40, and that album was called Jazz at the Phil. And so the Decca recordings didn't make either of the other lists. I just found that interesting.
But she did.
She did, yes,
Yep.
but it wasn't this album.
Yep.
Yeah.
So next week, next week, I love it. I love it. I love it when we turn to the next artist or reveal the next artist. And we've never heard them. We don't know much about them. We knew enough. I thought I knew enough about this artist that I just was not going to like it. It's judging a book by its cover. This isn't even judging by its cover. This is judging a book by its name. This is judging a book by its name. And if you'd have asked me a year ago or 16 months ago, hey, have you ever heard this guy Cannonball Adderley? I'd have been like, no, I think he's a free jazz artist, and I'm not going to put him in my ears. Until we revealed number 36 on our countdown, Cannonball Adderley, and the album is called Something Else. It was released on the Blue Note label on LP and CD in 1958. That golden era. I mean, this for me is that prime ripe jazz era for me.
And just the cover kind of explains it. Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, and Art Blakey.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, do tell.
Cannonball is a alto sax player. And if you'd have asked me a year ago, hey, who's the best alto sax player? I wouldn't have been able to name too many names. Of course, Brecker's he's a tenor sax player. John Coltrane's a tenor sax player. We don't have that many alto sax players on our list.
Nope.
We do. We have a couple, and we've already covered a couple. But Cannonball for me was always this, and it's not free jazz. But I'm super stoked for next week and the episode and listening to more Cannonball.
Yes, 1958's Something Else. Cannonball Adderley. On alto, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, and Art Blakey on the drum set. I wonder if it's going to be good. We'll have to
You
talk
know,
about it next week after we
I'm-
listen to it.
have to tune in next week just to see how we rate this album. You can tell by our excitement, it's going to be fairly decent. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will. I
Yeah.
really do. I think you'll enjoy it.
I would anticipate that our listeners are going to have some comments even now to prepare us for next week.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Hey, if you like what we're doing, man, please like and subscribe. I will give you a quick update. We've got 5 new subscribers since last week. We're up to 189. And my brother Mustafa laughed at us when I told him that we had almost 200 subscribers, but I don't care because I love my subscribers and you guys are so great just sticking with us. I appreciate you being here. We are over the 23,000 view mark. So
Nice.
23,000 views for all of our videos. But if you got a comment, you'd like to hear something, please let us know. We love responding to comments. So thank you so much for joining us on our journey.
Thank you all so very much.
We're gonna do, that was Queen Dolphin Street, Queen Dolphin Street, Brown Star Paper. We're gonna do Sand Dunes, which is Clifford Brown.